Good morning, and please switch off the microphone and your video because the connection will be better. So let's start our second online lecture. Now I am doing what? I would like, can you see the graph? So last time we have finished with the topic, the terms of trade policy, and we have started the third topic concerning international factor movement. That means labor movement, that means capital movement, and we have started with migration. What's the labor movement? You can see now the graph we have talked about. The name of the graph is the marginal product of labor. This graph, please write the assumptions under which this graph was drawn. So the first assumption, there are two factors, labor and capital. Two factors, labor and capital. The second factor is that capital is fixed factor. Capital is a fixed factor. Labor is a variable factor. And we are producing just one product. This assumption I will explain later. We are producing one product. So you can see on the graph the first thing. I am just repeating what we have done the last time, but it's better after 1 week. So in this graph, there is still no migration. This is just the situation of one economy. In this economy, we have OL people, workers. That means for about 1,000 workers, OL, and these workers have OW1, their wage. Okay, OW1. Because of the point Z, the coordinates of the point Z are OL and OW1. If we would decrease the quantity of workers to, for example, 500, you can imagine, I will draw it here, and sorry. So I will draw it here. If we have OL, and if we are at the point Z, and here OW1. If we decrease, for example, to 500 people, the quantity of workers, you can see they would have the higher wage because there is less, they are more, they are now scarce, the people or workers, so they will have higher wage. If we put 500 more people into the production, you can see their wage will be lower. The second thing we wanted to repeat is the what's the GDP? I have told you that GDP is the hatched area. This is GDP, everything this. If we have OL, labor, OL workers, the GDP is this hatched area. If I will decrease the quantity too, there will be less people, so GDP will be only this dark area, black area. And you understand, if I will increase the quantity of workers, I will hatch more and GDP will be everything less. This is the second thing I wanted to explain before starting explanation of migration. And the third thing concerns that if you imagine this is GDP, and we have two factors, capital and labor. I have told you that we have about OL, what is about 1,000 workers, OL, people working, and their wage is OW1. So you know that the area of the rectangle is the quantity times their wage for about 20,000. Yeah. So this is the area here, what we'll get from GDP labor. That means 20,000 times 1,000, probably 20 million Czech crowns. And the rest from GDP, this rest, will get the owners of capital, the owners of capital. No. So that's, I was repeating now the situation, and let's go to the second graph. I will try to, I forgot to tell you that I'm recording for your information, so I'm playing it just now. Now you can see the graph with two economies. The economy 1, this is the same picture as it used to be, as it was here before. This is the first economy, domestic economy, say the Czech Republic. And you can see the second graph. This is the same graph, but the opposite orientation. Marginal product of labor in the second economy is also decreasing, but it's drawn with the opposite orientation. So please draw a chart, and I will wait a little bit, and after it we will talk about the assumptions. Okay, I will wait some time. Please draw a chart. So let's start with the assumptions. Again, capital and labor, two factors, okay? In the first economy, labor is abundant factor. They have a high quantity of labor. They have a lot of workers. So labor is abundant. Capital is scarce factor. And the first economy labor is abundant factor. They have a lot of labor. Capital scarce factor. In the second economy, it's opposite. There is labor scarce factor and capital the abundant factor. Again, capital is the fixed factor, labor is the variable factor, and we are again producing just one product. This I will explain there. So now we have the basic situation. Imagine the Czech Republic and Germany. Traditionally, we always wanted to work in Germany, to migrate to Germany. So let's have a look. I will show you my graph here. I will change it. So now let's start. We will talk about the impact of migration. So let's start with the first impact. So the first economy before migration is at the point Z. The first economy, now please only watch and I will dictate later. The first economy is at the point that they have a lot of workers, O1, L1, because work is here abundant factor, and because they have a lot of workers, their wage is relatively low. It's only O1, W1. Once more, before migration, the first economy is at the point that it has O1, L1 workers, and because there are a lot of workers, they have very low wage, only O1, W1. Before migration, the second economy is at the point X. You can see it. So there are only O2, O1 workers. So there is a shortage as for the labor. And they are very expensive. That means there is very high wage. That means O2, W2. So only O2, L1 workers, and their wage is O2, W2. And now let's start migration. So look here. These people, L2, L1, will migrate to the second country. They will move to the second country, from the Czech Republic, for example, to Germany. L2, L1. What happens now? Now, in the Czech Republic, in the domestic country, in the first country, there are only O1, L2 people, only these people, O1, L2. And now they have the higher wage, W1, WE. You can see it. They have less people, less workers, and they have the higher wage. It has increased. What happened in the second country? The second country is now at its marginal product of labor, also at the point E. They have now O2, L2 people, O2, L2 people. But because they have more people now, so more workers, their wage decreased to WE. So let's start to write. I will dictate it. So the situation before migration. The situation before migration. The first country is at the point Z. The first country is at the point Z. It has O1, L1 workers, O1, L1 workers, and the wage is O1, W1. The wage is O1, W1. The second country is at the point X. The second country is at the point X. It has O2, L1 workers, O2, L1 workers, and they have O2, W2 wage. Their wage is O2, W2. So this was the situation before migration. Now L2, L1 people move to the second country. From the first country to the second country, L2, L1 people move. L2, L1 move, migrate. So the situation after the migration. The situation after the migration. The first country is at the point E. The first country is at the point E. It has O1, L2 employees, O1, L2 employees, and their wage is O1, WE. O1, L2 employees, and their wage is O1, WE. The second country is also at the point E. It has O2, L2 employees, O2, L2 employees, O2, L2 employees, and they have the wage O2, WE. I would like you to see what I am now drawing. You can see as a tendency, here is the equalization of wages between countries because of migration. So please write the first conclusion, the first impact of the migration. The first impact of the migration. The first impact is the equalization of wages, between countries, the equalization of wages between countries as a tendency. First impact is the equalization of wages between countries as a tendency because of migration. So this is the first impact. You can see this was the first impact. Let's go to the second impact. At first, please have a look at what I'm drawing on the graph, and then we will dictate it and you will do it on your own. So I would like to go back. If you remember, we have showed the hatched area and we have talked about it. This is GDP. We have talked about it. This is GDP. So before migration, I can hatch here this area. The first country used to have O1L1 employees, O1L1 employees. And their GDP was this hatched area below the curve, finishing in ZL1, ZL1. The second country had the area this. You can imagine this is GDP in the second country. It's again hatched and it's below, if we can imagine it here, it's below the curve of the second marginal product of labor. So this is, yes?
Can you show please GDP in some different colors because the whole picture, it's really messy now.
I will try if I will be able. So this is GDP in the second country. Is it okay?
Yes, thank you.
Yes. So once more, in the first country, you can see under the marginal product of labor, number 1, this is the hatched area finishing in ZL1. In the second country, it's the red area now, finishing in XL1. So, and now there will be the migration. So I will try to use another color, for example, green one. Look here, what happened? In the first country, now the new GDP is this green one. You can see it. This green one is the new GDP because the quantity of people decreased from L1 to L2. Now the area is finishing in EL2. This is the green area. On the other hand, increase the quantity of people in the second country increased, and you can see now that the red area is larger or bigger. You can see it. So the GDP in the second country increased. Okay. So what is the conclusion? Now GDP in the first country is O1 L2E, O1 L2E, and the area, you can see it. GDP in the second country is O2 L2E, this big area. So the new GDP in the first country is the green color. The new GDP in the second country after migration is the red color. So what happened? So in the first country, the first country lost the area L2, L1, ZE. The first country lost L2, L1, ZE. As for the GDP, their GDP decreased. The second country, there was GDP increase. They have increased R2, L1, XE. This is in the second country, in the first country, and in the second country, there is GDP increase. L2, L1, XE. And as a conclusion, you can see, because the world for us, there are just these two countries, there is increase of the world GDP by this triangle. You can see it. So there is the increase of the GDP, world GDP, by the triangle EZX. So I will repeat it once more. I think you understand the philosophy. At first, the GDP was in the first country O1, L1Z. It was finishing by the line ZL1. And at first, the GDP in the second country finished at the point X and the line XL1. And it was the hatched area below the curve. After the migration, there was GDP decrease in the first country by L2, L1, ZE. On the other hand, there was in the second country GDP increase by L2, L1, XE. And please, let's write together the second conclusion, the second impact of the labor movement, of the migration. It's definitely the increase of the world GDP. This is the increase in the world GDP by the triangle EZX, in my case here. Maybe you ask, how is it possible if people move from the first country to the second country that they produce more? The explanation is that now labor is relatively better spread out in the ratio to the capital. You know, maybe there were too many people in the first country in the relation to the capital. In the second country, there was the lack of people, so they had capital, but they didn't have workers. Now, because of migration, people moved, and now the labor is better spread in the relation to the capital. It's possible to use the capital more in the global level, I would say. So that's the reason why the world GDP increased. So let's go to the third impact of the migration. The third impact of the migration, if you remember, as an assumption, there are two countries and two factors, labor and capital. Maybe I will draw the new chart. It will be too too much now. So wait a minute, I will draw a new chart. So we will now talk about it, that the total GDP is divided between two production factors. That means between labor and capital. Something from GDP gets labor. Labor gets something from GDP. Capital gets the rest. So I will show it. So we are at the basic situation again, and let's go to repetition. Let's start with the first country. If you remember, we have talked that this rectangle, you know that this is the GDP before migration in the first country. I will do it by purple, for example. This rectangle will get employees in a form of wages. I have told you we have 1,000 employees. Their wages 20,000. So 20,000 times 1,000. This is what employees will get in wages. Yes, and you can understand that the rest will get capital from GDP. So you can see it, the purple area, there are wages, and the rest will get capital, because in assumption we have just two production factors. After the migration, you remember, now the GDP is finishing with this line EL2, so we have lost the rest of the product. So I will use another color, for example, the yellow one. This is what we'll get now. Labor. And definitely you can see that the rest will get capital, and you can see definitely that the area for capital is really smaller. You can see it, it's smaller. So once more repetition. What happened in this third situation? What's the third impact? In the first country, for example, in the Czech Republic, as for the labor, you can see they used to have the purple rectangle. After the migration, they have the yellow one. But definitely you can see that the area belonging to capital is smaller. They have only the rest above the yellow rectangle. So in the first country, you can see the impact is this. There is, there is increase in wages. So the wage is better for workers. So they are happy because of migration. But the owners of capital are not happy because they have now less, their situation worsened. What about the second country? Again, repetition. In the second country, I will use, for example, the orange one. So at first, let's do, this was GDP in the second country, finishing here. And for wages, there was this orange rectangle. This got wages, this orange rectangle, wages. That means O2, O1, employees times their wage, that's that wages. The rest, you can see here above, was for capital. The owners of capital had the rest. Now, pink, for example, after the migration, wages in the first, in the second country, from GDP, they will get this pink area. And definitely you can see that what get capital is much more. The area is larger. So now wages, this is the pink area. The wages after the migration, they are pink. What does it mean in the second country? So in the second country, definitely you can see that because of migration, the situation of workers worsened, their wages are lower, but the situation of capital owners is now better. They have the larger area. You can see it's definitely larger, the black area now. So what's the third conclusion? I will wait some time until you draw it before coming to the third conclusion. So the third conclusion, or the third impact of migration. The migration has different impact. The migration has different impact on the owners of different factors. The migration has different impact on the owners of different factors. In the first country, workers have higher wages. Workers have higher wages. Their wages increased. But the situation of capital owners worsened. The situation of capital owners worsened. So wages increased, and the situation of capital owners worsened. In the second country, it's opposite. So wages decreased, so the situation of workers worsened, wages decreased. And the situation of capital owners improved. The situation of capital owners improved. You can also understand that in each country there will be different attitude to migration. In the first country, say in the Czech Republic, workers would want to migrate. On the other hand, the owners of capital wouldn't want. They would want it wouldn't exist. In Germany, in the second country, for example, trade unions in Germany in the second country would be against migration from other countries. Why? Because they are afraid that the wages will go down, as you can see here in the graph. They will be afraid of it, and they would want to say to the government, stop migration. On the other hand, the owners of capital, their situation will improve. They would want to have more people. Maybe they have a lot of enterprises, businesses, and they need labor. So they will support. They will want to. People would migrate. So you can see again the different approach of different owners of different factors. So these three impacts is necessary to know. The first impact was the equalization of wages between countries. I'm repeating. The second is the increase of the world GDP, and the third conclusion is different impact on different owners of factors. I didn't say in the last case, in the third situation or the third impact, why is it? Why in the first country the situation of the capital owners worsen? It's because they have some capital, let's imagine companies, firms, and there are now less people. So the capital is not used so well as before migration. That's the reason why they have now less profit. In the second country, they have the fixed quantity, you know, it was the assumption, the fixed quantity of capital, and for the fixed quantity of capital, they have now more people. So that means that the capital is more used, better used. That means that's the reason why the profit from capital is higher. So it was the explanation of migration in an economic view. Let's go to the one thing. I told you I will explain later why I assume just production of one product. In both graphs, we assume production of one product. Please now, if we would assume there are two products produced, now there is the possibility to choose. We assume that in the first country they have a lot of workers. There was labor, the abundant factor. So the first possibility was migration, as we have done just now, migration. But the second thing is, if you remember it, if you remember Heckscher-Ohlin model from trade, it's possible to produce, if you have relatively more labor, you can produce labor-intensive products, if you remember it. And to do just international trade. Once more, there are two possibilities. If the first country is labor abundant, they have a lot of labor, that was assumption. the country, the first possibility we have talked about today is the migration. If I don't say it nicely, we can export people in a form of migration. In the second situation, we can export labor-intensive product. It's in the first country. What about the second country? The second country is in the opposite situation. They have abundant capital that they can export capital, what we will talk about later, or the second country can, according to the Heckscher-Ohlin model, can be specialized in capital-intensive products, and just to do trade. So I would like you to understand that migration and trade, there are two possibilities if you are a labor abundant country. But it's necessary to say what I didn't notice, that definitely migration, it's connected with other problems, as we can see, as for the, I don't know, one religion, social problems, language barriers, and so on. So there always be both forms of international relations. People always will migrate because of working in another country, and there will also be trade. Both possibilities definitely will exist. There will not be the situation that there would be only migration or only trade without migration. So that's all as for the migration, and let's go to the second factor. The second factor is capital, what we are going now to talk about. So I would like you to draw a chart here now. You can see here just the production possibility frontier, but now there are different, what is it here? So please draw a chart, what you can see here, but it's very clear. This is just normal production possibility. Frontier, you remember we used to write on the axis wheat and cloth. This is the same graph, but there is, oh, sorry. Please do draw this chart at first. That one we will do further. So please draw this chart, present consumption and future consumption, and intertemporal change. So I will be quiet for some time, and then so again, please think of wheat and clothes, and everything in the graph is the same. If economists explain capital movement, they are talking about it. It's also trade, but it's intertemporal trade, that we do trade and we can change between present and future consumption, present and future consumption. So at first, have a look at the point A. For example, me as an individual, as a household, I am at the situation A, P, A, F, F as future, P as present. So I have some combination now of present and future consumption. I'm producing it somehow. But you can imagine that I can move alongside the curve of PPF, alongside the concave curve, you can see it here. If I am moving to the left alongside it, so if I draw a chart here, if I am moving to the left, you can see that I am increasing the coordinates of future consumption, but the coordinate of the present consumption is decreasing. So once more, I am increasing the future consumption and I am decreasing the present consumption. So the present consumption could mean, yes?
I didn't understand. If we move alongside,
okay, I will put it. I will draw it here with you.
Thank you.
Wait a minute. So you can see now that I am at the point A, and I can move. Now there are my coordinates. I have some combination of the present and future consumption, and I decide, because I'm an older person, that I would like to have some money after being retired. So I will decide to move to the point, for example, A asterisk, and I will decrease my present consumption because I will save some money for my retirement into the pension fund, but I can increase my future consumption, you know, because I will get money from the pension fund. On the other hand, if you are young people, if you decide to move to the right, you can increase your present consumption. For example, you buy the apartment, but you know that you will have to pay off the mortgage. You will have to decrease your future consumption. So this is the possibility of the household. This is the possibility of the company, of individual, of everyone. So if you have a look again at the graph here, the last thing we didn't explain, sorry, it doesn't work. Now you see there is also the slope of the line, the slope of the line minus bracket 1 plus R bracket. R is the real exchange, real interest rate. Real interest rate. It's clear that if I am given money into the pension fund, I don't expect I get the same money. I will get more because of interest rates. Definitely, if you will pay off the mortgage, you will have to pay inclusive interest rates because the normal function. So this is R is the real exchange rate. So let's go to the next graph. Please, I will give you some time to draw it, and then I will start talking. So the picture is the same. If you remember, we have drawn the standard trade model, wheat and clothes. It's the totally same picture. Please think of it for you to understand it better. This is totally the same picture. The only different thing, these are axes, and instead of clothes, we have present consumption. Instead of wheat, we have the future consumption. Now you can see here the country exporting present consumption. The country exporting present consumption, imagine, for example, oil countries in the 70s. You know, you remember 1973, there was the oil shock. What was it? In 1 year, the prices of oil increased from $2.65 to $11.65 or something like that. It's very cheap in nowadays eyes, but at that time it was the increase 4 times or 5, even 5 times. You can imagine what would it do with the whole world economy now. And these countries exporting oil, they started to have a lot of capital. They get a lot of money from oil, but there were no other possibilities to invest. They were just mining oil. So what they started to do, they started to give loans to other countries, So think of these oil countries by the explanation of this picture. Let's start with the point A. The point A, if you imagine the standard trade model, this was the point of production. The country produced some quantity of wheat and some quantity of clothes. So please write that the point A is also the point of production. The country is producing, is creating some present and some future consumption. Again, the country at the point A is at the point A. The country is creating some quantity of present and future consumption. What is the point D? It's similar to the standard trade model. If you remember, it was a demand.
Excuse me,
yes.
Could you repeat the point A? What does it mean?
Explain?
Yes, please, once again.
Yes, again.
So,
yes, I would like you to understand the parallel with the standard trade model. At this point A, we were talking about it. This is the point of production. The country produces some quantity of cloth and wheat. The point A is again the point of production. The country produces some quantity of present and future consumption. This country is creating, producing some present and future consumption. But there is again the point D in comparison with the A. there is the demand different for present and future consumption. The point D, its name is D because it means demand. It's not just what the country is able to do, it's the point D is demand for present and future consumption. You can see it's different from what the country, what possibilities the country has. Even the point is behind the PPF. So again, you can see DPDF. This is the demand for present and future consumption. How is it possible that a country can be at the point D as for the demand for present and how is it possible that the country can consume more in the future? It's not on the PPF, it's behind. It's because the country exports the present consumption. The country exports the present consumption. You can see it. This is, I have told you, the oil countries had dollars, but they couldn't invest, so they gave loans to other countries. So they exported present consumption. These exports are giving loans. But you know, in the future, the other countries will have to pay off the loans, inclusive interest rates. Inclusive interest rates. That means for this oil country, it's possible in the future to consume more, to consume. The future consumption can be behind the PPF because they will import future consumption inclusive interest rates. So please write to this picture that this country has its intertemporal, I will write it here on the, wait a minute. Country has its you don't see it. Here. The country has its intertemporal comparative advantage, intertemporal comparative advantage in the present consumption. This is the situation of the oil country. They are exporting present consumption, they are giving loans, and in the future they will be able to consume more, even behind the PPF, because they will get money back, inclusive interest rates. Right? It's clear if we will go back to the graph, and you have the graph written probably. Oh, be tolerant to me. So you can see the slope here. You can see this line, and the slope is -1 plus r. So if you imagine there will be the higher slope, the interest rate will be higher. So definitely the future consumption can be also higher, right? So let's go to the second country. Oh, sorry. Let's go to this. Please draw this chart. I will wait a minute. Now we have a country importing present consumption. Or what is it? Again, imagine the 70s. I have to feel that the oil countries gave loans. And there were, for example, countries in the East Asia, Korea and Singapore and all these countries. There were a lot of investment possibilities, but they didn't have capital. So they took loans. They took loans. So now you are thinking of these countries having loans, and what's the situation of these countries? These countries in this our picture are at the point B. So they have some BP present and BF future consumption. They are producing this combination of present and future consumption. On the other hand, the demand for present and future consumption is different. It's at the point P. You can see it. It's behind the PPF curve at the point P. This country is demanding some quantity of present consumption, PP, and some quantity of future consumption, PF. It's the country which needs now consume. They need money, they need capital. So again, you can see that they import these present consumption, they are taking loans, but in future, they will have to export future consumption. So this country has its comparative advantage in the future consumption. Intertemporal comparative advantage in the future consumption, right? What is it? That means that this country will have to decrease its future consumption. You understand it? Because it will have to pay off the loans, inclusive interest rates. But I would like to remind here one thing. If the country takes loans, as in my case here, they were importing present consumption, it should take loans for some investments, for some investments where it's possible they will have future profits. You know, imagine into the biotechnologies, or in the 70s they invested into the electronics and all these industries. Why? Because in the future they will have to pay off their loans. It's necessary to have money for interest rates, and that's the reason why the country shouldn't take loans for food or just for normal things, but it's good to take loans for investments, right? So let's leave the graph and go to the final form of our final form. Wait a minute again. So let's go to the final form of the capital movement. That means we have done all these international capital movement, intertemporal trade, intertemporal PPF, intertemporal comparative advantage. And now we are coming to transnational corporations. These transnational corporations are also it's the form of the capital movement, but it's a different one. Why? Because if we were explaining that the capital is moving as in a form of loans, so the country gave loans to the second country, and the second country used money as it wanted. The first country giving loans couldn't decide what the money will be for or something like that. I want to remind you one thing. We say the country gives loans or the country takes loans. It doesn't mean that the government takes loans, right? All subjects in the countries, household, firms, also government, but not that the Czech government take loan from the German government. You know, we talk about the country, but we think all these subjects, especially companies, you know, especially households and so on, to understand it. So transnational corporations, they are the special form, and the economists were thinking, why the countries don't take only normal loans? Why there was created this form of transnational corporations? That means that the transnational corporation puts capital into another country. And what's the difference between loans and transnational corporations? The capital is still the ownership of the transnational corporation, right? And the owner can decide what will be with it, right? So if we have here in the Czech Republic, so Volkswagen, this investment, Škoda Volkswagen, so the German mother can decide what will be with the capital, where to invest it, what to do with it. So it's different. So we cannot, if you give loans to some other country, it's different. Transnational corporations, they're still the property of the mother. The economists are talking about the motives of why there are the transnational corporation. The first motive is the motive of allocation, that the company goes where is some comparative advantage. The company goes where is some comparative advantage, for example, some raw material, oil, and so on. So there's a reason why the company is going there. I would go to the third motive at first. The third motive is the motive of size, because these are very big companies, and because of size, the country has a lot of advantages. As for example, the approach of banks giving them loans, as they have a lot of money to invest into the research and development, and because of size, transnational corporations have a lot of advantages. The third motive is...
Sorry, I have a question. So
Yes.
the transnational corporations, they have the advantage because they can be lent money more easily, or?
Yes,
Okay.
definitely. The banks are feeling less risk in comparison with this, some small business or so on, right? The last motive is the motive of internalization. It's not internalization, be careful, it's internalization. Because if we are talking the neoclassical economics, we never talk about it, that also the market, the functioning of the market costs some money, We say there is the buyer, the seller, they meet in the market, there is the price, the quantity, and so on. But we never talk in the theory about it that it costs something. Imagine if you are doing big trades, big agreements, you need lawyers, there are also maybe some claims and so on, it's necessary to solve it and so on, and it costs everything money. So we talk about the transaction costs, and these transaction costs are the costs connected with the functioning of the market. Transaction costs are the costs connected with the functioning of the market. So, and these transaction costs is necessary to decrease in the competitiveness, in the competition. So that means the companies are trying to decrease all costs as possible, marketing costs and the labor costs and so on. And now it's necessary also to decrease these transaction costs. Maybe you cannot imagine, in case of some products, these transaction costs can be even 50% of our costs. That's what's a lot. How to decrease transaction costs? How to decrease the costs connected with the market performance? It's necessary to cancel the market. How to cancel it? It's necessary that they will not meet with another company in the market as a buyer and seller. But if you do fusion or merger, you will be in one structure, in one company, and there will be no necessity to use money for market, for doing agreements and contracts and so on. So this is the third motive of the marking of the why transnational corporations were created. I will not talk more about it. I just only want you to know is the form of the capital movement, a special one, because the capital is all the time the ownership of the owner, the mother country. And that's how we can now finish the third topic with the international effective movement. And I will at this time also finish our lecture now. next time we will meet again. This time I will try later because it's not possible to do it immediately, to put it again into the lectures in our teams. So I will write you if I will do it. So now let's make a break at 11. I would like to start the first seminar, and then 12:45 I will start the second seminar. So please stay healthy, all of you. I miss you. I am here at the university. I am here alone. So it's very strange feeling. So, but it's necessary. I think it's okay if we can meet in this way. So have a nice time, and I will interrupt it until 11, and then we will meet again. So bye bye. Hello, so let's continue with this our seminar. Please note, I would like you to find in files. Wait a minute. In Teams, in files, I have put you some things as for the seminar. You can, the name of it is International Factor Movement. Can you see it? Do you have it?
Which one is it?
International Factor Movement. Or something like that. International Factor Movement. Did you find it?
Yes.
Yes, perfect.
Yes.
So please, it's 8 exercises. It doesn't take such a long time. Please do it. It's based on today's lecture. I will wait here and then we will check it together. So please, you have 10 minutes for it. I am here if you need my help, but still you can do it based on today's lecture.
Sorry, can you repeat where we can find this file because I cannot find this document?
International Factor Movement. It's up in files in our team. Yes, I uploaded this material last week, but also I have uploaded it into the Teams. If you see up, there are files and you can find it there. I wrote you yesterday a message. So can we check? Yes? So please tell me, did you finish?
No, still have 1, 2 left.
So, okay. So you can see now the graph of migration, what will help you. I will start reading and saying the correct answers. And please, if you have any question, you can ask. So let's start with the first one. The international labor movement between two countries will cause, theoretically, before migration in the domestic country there is the lower wage, and in the foreign country there is the higher wage. This is the same situation as in our graph. A, the increase of wage in the foreign country, false. B, the decrease of wage in the domestic country, true. The decrease of wage in the false. C, the increase of product in the domestic country, false. And D, the decrease of product in the domestic country, true. Only D. 2. So I will not read the text because it's the same. A, the increase of wage in the domestic country, true. B, the decrease of wage in the foreign country, true. C, the increase of land rent in the foreign country, true. And the decrease of land rent in the domestic country, true. I would like to remind you that it's not necessary to have only the combination labor and capital. You can definitely have labor and land, and everything is the same. Yes, the question?
So A is also true? All of them are true?
Everything.
Okay, thank you.
Number 3. A, the equalization of products in both countries, false, it's not true. B, the equalization of wages in both countries, true, B is true. C, the decrease in capital profit in the domestic country, true. And D, the increase of wage in the foreign country, false. Right? B and C.
So
sorry,
Yes.
is the first true?
No, it's not true. The
It's
products
okay.
are not equal. GDP is not equal.
Okay.
excuse me, if
Yes.
capital is a fixed factor, how come there's a decrease in capital in C?
Let's see the decrease in capital profit. It's not decrease in capital. Profit. You understand?
Yes, okay, thank you.
Welcome. So B and C. Number 4, no change in the world product after labor movement. False. The increase of wage in the foreign country after labor movement. False. C. The decrease of capital profit in the domestic country. True. The increase of capital profit in the foreign country. True. Number 5, the equalization of wages in both countries. True. The increase of product in the foreign country. True. The improved situation of labor owners in the domestic country. True. I would like to remind you, labor owners means just employees. It's not that you are a slave and someone is your owner. If we say the labor owner, it's just me. I am a labor owner. I am an employee. You are also employee. You will be employee. Yes. The improved situation. The improved situation of capital owners in the domestic country. 5. The improved situation of capital owners. It's not true. Just C. Sorry.
Why? Why C is not true?
The improved situation of labor owners in the. It's true. ABC is true.
Okay, thank you.
ABC. Sorry. Number 6. The increase of income of land owners in the second country. True. B. The increase of wage in the first country. True. D. The increase of income of landowners in the first country. False. And D. The decrease of product in the first country. True. A, B, D. Number 7. The forms of international effective movements are A. Trade in goods. It's not true. Not the form of, it's just international trade. It's not the movement of factors. B. International loans. True. C. Transnational corporations. True. And D. Trade in services. It's not true. Not, it's again just trade. The last one, 8.
Sorry.
Yes.
For the 7, why B international loans is true?
Because we have talked about that it's the form how the capital is moved. If you take loan, you know, for example, yes, you remember.
Sorry, could you explain?
Yes, I will show you again. Here, for example, you were talking about a country which is giving loans. So it was the form, in this case, this oil country exported present consumption, gave loan to some other country. Yes, and it's the movement of factors. production factors. Could you understand it?
Yes.
Yes. In the second case, we have the opposite. There is taking loans. This country needs money just now, needs capital. So it's imported. It's importing present consumptions, taking loans. So this is the form of the capital movement.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Number 8A, the equalization of products in both countries. False. B, the increase of wage in the domestic country after there should be labor movement. True. C, the decrease in capital profit in the domestic country. True. The increase in capital profit in the foreign country. True. So B, C, D. So in this way, we have just now checked if you understood the lecture. I think it's quite not complicated. And now let's go again. I will try to download it. Be tolerant to me. I'm a very old woman and this horrible situation. I cannot find it. Let's Teams and I will open the next one and I try to share it with you. No, it's not here. Sorry. Where is it? I tried to open. Where is it? I don't know. Did you find it in your? It's necessary if you would have the document. The name is the document. The name of the document is midterm 1. Midterm 1. I have put it into the Teams up in the but I cannot find it here just now.
It's in the files.
Can you find it?
Yes.
Perfect. So I am not, there is no need for me to work with it here. So please start, open it. I will take it. You have here exercises 1 to 4, midterm. That's because now we have finished the first half of the international economics. We were talking about trade, international trade and factor movement and trade policy. And there is the question, which file? Midterm 1. Midterm 1. This is the name of the file. Midterm 1. And I would like if we would repeat a little bit. So at first, I would like you to do just now exercises 2, 3, 4, and we will check it again together.
Sorry, did you upload this file in this?
In this, it is not. It's in files in Teams.
Oh, okay.
Files in Teams. But I don't know how to put it here, how to share it here. I'm opening it. Did you find it, please? So this midterm 1, please do exercises 2, 3, 4. And again, we will check together. I will do it here. Please try if you would be able to do it. This is a repetition of previous seminars. We can explain it again somehow. So can we check, or you still work?
So my
Yeah.
my connection shut down for a bit. Which document are we in right now?
We are talking about the midterm one, and you are doing exercises 2, 3, 4.
Okay. Thank you. And for the midterm, is it going to be online or we don't know yet?
We don't have any midterm.
Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you.
We are only just working.
Okay.
So, did you finish with these 3 exercises? 2, 3, 4, please.
We can check.
Yes.
Few seconds, please.
Can I please have some more time?
Okay.
Societal loss? What's societal loss, for fuck's sake?
Wait, is the mic on?
What?
Is the mic on?
No, I can't do it.
So, I will start. You can see what I'm writing now. So we are repeating the trade policy. If you remember, we were talking the last time about the effective tariff protection rate. We are again in a small economy, and I am repeating that the small economy cannot influence the world price. So we have 2 products: clothes, which is used for the suit. So the clothes, the material is the product of the textile industry, and the suit, the whole suit, is the product of the clothing industry. So the starting situation, let's start with 2A. 2A. So the final product, 10,000 Czech crowns, and the state-imposed nominal tariff on the textile industry. So the producer of the suit in the small economy must be able to produce at the world price. The world price is 10,000. The price in the small economy is also 10,000. There is no tariff concerning the the clothing industry. On the other hand, the price of material, the world price was 5,000, or it is 5,000, and if there was no tariff in the small economy, they used to take the world price. They had 5,000 Czech crowns, but now, newly, after the tariff imposition 10%, the price increased to 5,500 is the price in the small economy now. So you can see that the value added has changed. So they must be able to do the whole the whole suit, not for 5,000, but only for 4,500. It's worse for the clothing industry now. So you can see that the effective tariff protection rate, according to our formula, is this. But at the same time, you can see, it's not necessary, you can see that there was a decrease in the value added by 10% with at the same time the effective tariff protection rate. You must understand that the situation of domestic producers is now worse because they must be able to do the final product, and they must be able to do it at the worst conditions. They must be able to do it for 4,500, not for 5,000. In the second situation, their state imposed tariffs on the final product. So you can see that now the price of the suit in the domestic market is 11,000. the price of material is the same. There is no tariff. So you can see definitely that there is the increase in the value added. Again, if we should use this formula, it's plus 20%, and you can see really that there was the increase in the value added 20%. Now you should understand that the situation of the producer of the suit, of producers of the suit, is better. Now they have weaker condition. There is no need for them to save costs. There is no need for them to, I don't know what, not to have too many workers and so on, to use new technologies and so on. Okay, so you should understand especially the philosophy. So let's go to number 3 as again repetition of the trade policy. So the total loss of the consumer surplus after the tariff imposition.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Could you please go back to the previous slide? I just didn't miss. I mean, I missed out something. I just would like to double check.
The exercise.
Yeah, just the last one.
Sorry, I have erased it. Which one you need, A or B?
It was just concerning B. I just wanted to check that I got something right. If you no, don't worry about it.
You see, just new. You should see this. There is the change in value added from 5,000 to 6,000. And you should understand that the effective tariff protection rate according to the formula is 20%. It's increased 20%. And I have told you that the situation of producers in the clothing industry, garment industry is now much better. They don't have to be able to produce at the world price 10,000. They can produce at 11,000. The value added can be higher. That means it's not necessary to use modern technologies to sack people and so on. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Welcome. Let's go to number 3. It's again trade policy. So you should understand what the total loss of the consumer surplus. If you remember it, that the consumer always loses because he's paying more in the domestic market. So there is some product X and the consumer lost 100 million because of it. So because it's necessary to pay more. You should know, in case of the small economy, if this tariff was a societal loss, total societal loss. This is B plus D, 2 triangles. You remember it, that A, it's not lost, it has moved to producers. C also is not lost, it's moved to the state budget, but B plus D, it's lost. Nobody gets it. So B plus D is 25. You know the state collects from duty, that's C. State collects 30. And now, what's the change of the producer surplus? So it's very easy. You know that now there is the higher price in the domestic country, in the domestic market. So domestic producers can produce, some of them, although they are more expensive, they can produce, and that's the reason why A has moved to them. So what's A is 100 minus 25 minus 30. It should be 45. So the answer is 45 million Czech crowns. So you know that's not lost as for the society. It has moved from consumers to producers. And how many pieces of the product were imported if the duty per one piece was 600 Czech crowns? So the question is about C. If you remember, C is the rectangle, and the area you can count quantity times duty per one piece, for example. So you know that C is 30 millions. And duty per one piece was 60. So if you do 600, sorry, C over 600, that means 30 million over 600. You should know that it is, I have here, no, it is 50,000 pieces. Were imported. So 50,000 pieces were imported, okay? Because the whole collected sum was 30 million, and you know what was the duty per one piece. So you know from this information that they imported 50,000 pieces. Okay, and let's go to the final, to the 4 before starting doing number 1.
Can I just ask?
Yes, yes.
So in the part A, there is the question if A is an increase or a decrease. So
Yes.
what was the answer to that?
Tell me.
I don't know.
I have told you. I have
Increase?
told you that increase. Yeah, you are right. Because
Okay, thank you.
now producers have more. It has moved from them because the price is higher. Right? So,
Thank you.
Welcome. Okay. So, and number 4, it's again terms of trade, what we have talked about last before. So, the export price index of the country A 2019 in comparison with the year 2010 was, so you should know that export price index, I am repeating, what does it mean export price index 102%? It means that the prices in export increased between 2019 and 2010. And I have told you that this is the positive development because we are selling. We want to export at a very high price as possible. Import price index was 103%. That means that the prices in import also increased by 3% between 2019 and 2010. It's not good for us because we are buying and now we are buying at a higher price. For example, we are importing oil, raw materials, so it's not good development for the economy. So the first exercise is how much is terms of trade. So according to the formula, and you can definitely see if you use calculator, it's about 99%. So you know it's worsening. Terms of trade worsened. What does it mean? Is it negative, positive, and neutral development from the view of the economy? Definitely it's negative. And I have told you that for the same quantity of export, this is the same quantity of export, I can import less by 1%. I can import less by 1%. Or for the same quantity of import, I must export more as for the quantity by 1%. I must export more. What's worse for me? I have shown you the GDP produced, and I have told you that we are losing a little bit. So this is the used GDP. For the same quantity of import, for export, I import now less. That means I export something and import less, so I have lost. So there is loss in GDP. So, and now please have a look at the first exercise, and I would like to exercise here the first thing we have done in the semester, and that was model twice time 2, Ricardo, and so you have there two countries, two commodities, and I will give you some time for you to work on your own, and then we will check it again. Please be careful if you are reading, because in the first sentence you can read labor unit requirements of 1 liter wine production. In the second sentence you don't know labor requirements, you know labor productivity. That's, if you remember, we have talked about it, that labor productivity is the reciprocal value of the labor unit requirements. So So what exercise, which one are you doing? A, B, C, D? Tell me.
D.
B?
No, D. The last
D.
one.
Okay, okay.